Cynthia Morin. I am from Colorado Springs and I'm studying chemical engineering.
My name is Bailey Anderson. I'm from Casper, Wyoming, and I'm a music education major.
And I am Jordan Yocums. I am from Ranchester, Wyoming, and I am an agroecology major with an ag business minor.
My name is Emma Comstock. I am from Lander, Wyoming, and I'm majoring in history with minors in museum studies, gender and women's studies, and honors.
My name is Brinley. I'm from Wheatland and my major is in sociology.
My name is Josie Alatorre. I am from Green River, Wyoming, and I am a psychology major.
My name is Chad Quinn. I am from Guernsey, Wyoming, and I am a finance major.
So my name is Serena Poto, and I majored in criminal justice and minored in anthropology, and I'm from Cody, Wyoming.
My name is Brianna Perry. I am from Cheyenne. My major is theater and dance with a concentration in both performance and design.
Okay, so for me, ever since I was in middle school, every single class college was brought up is like here's a test, learn how to take tests for college. Or here's how you do taxes, like in 8th grade, they taught us that for college, and like so we can be prepared for that. And so I think I was groomed for college throughout grade school, and so I knew that for me, no matter what, I got my degree and I wanted to go to college so that I could show an employer, regardless of the job, I have completed this and I have the discipline to work hard for you, whether it's in my degree or not.
I started thinking about college when I was about to graduate high school. I didn't necessarily think about the expectations until I had already registered to go to college here. That's when it kind of hit me that I wasn't truly ready for it. So I decided to take about 2 years off before I started going to school. And I think that that was a really beneficial decision for me to do that.
I think I really started thinking about college, like getting serious around junior year in high school, sophomore, junior year. Before that, I mean, college was always on my mind because in society nowadays, it seems like an education that is a necessity. You needed to have a job. You needed to be paid more at that job. So it was always on my mind, and you're always taking these tests in middle school and sometimes even in elementary school, trying to see what you like to do and what possible professions that you could do, or what degrees you can go into for that profession. But definitely junior, sophomore year is when I started planning things out. Um, but some assumptions and expectations, I'd say expensive, and thought about debt and loans a lot of the time. And I was also very focused on money and working, trying to get as much money as I could before heading to college and having to pay tuition. I was mostly on my own with that. So financial responsibilities were very important to me.
I would say like the end of my junior year when I got my ACT scores back, then I was like, okay, now I know what I qualify for and start from there. And then just getting all the information I could. Starting senior year, my school had the fairs and everything, and so starting the end of junior year.
Yeah, I think for me it started in freshman year because we had a lot of introduction classes on Hathaway and building our GPA and preparing for things like the ACT so that we could get the highest Hathaway tier that we could, especially if we were planning on going to a Wyoming college. So I would say for me we started thinking about it, at least personally, for my freshman year of high school.
I came from a very not nuclear family, and so college was always like this distant thing that was going to give me these great opportunities and I was going to love every second of it and it was going to transform my life. And then come senior year, I was just dreading going into debt because, you know, that's what every college student kind of thinks about, is you're going to go thousands of dollars in debt. And what I actually got to experience was extremely affordable tuition and fees, and that was very comforting for me.
I would say probably the summer after my senior year, because I actually took a year off to work, and that was when it really hit me, like, okay, I need to be putting in these college applications, I need to start thinking about financing college. I think taking that year off just kind of gave me perspective, because it wasn't like I was in high school still, but I also hadn't just gone straight into college. it was just more a bit of a reality check, like, hey, college is coming, you better be ready for it.
The University of Wyoming was always my plan. I just always figured that I would come here at some point. I didn't plan on going to a community college to begin with, but I'm really glad I did, and I'm really glad that I ended up here.
Well, so in high school, I was definitely opposed to going to UW. I told myself I would never step foot on that campus. And so I went to community college to finish my degree. Like Josie, I had a year done in high school, so I went to Northwest to finish it out. And when I graduated with my associates, I toured UW, and it just felt different. I knew this is where I was supposed to be. It was really handy too because all my credits transferred, and financially, it was a very doable option for me.
I was kind of the same. I was like, I don't want to go to UW. I've met with some of the professors in high school, and I don't know if it's right. And so I went to Casper College just to know I can get a cheap associate's here, and then I can choose where to go from there. And so then kind of same thing. I came on campus for the marching band invitational, and I was like, oh yeah, this feels pretty good. Like this would be fun if this is a game or something. So then I started to look into it more, and that's how I ended up here.
So kind of like Jordan, I was pretty dead set on never going to UW. I think maybe it was because that's where everybody else was going, and I kind of wanted to just break the mold. I heard it was more expensive. I didn't quite like the colors of brown and gold as a college, which seems like a pretty petty thing now looking back. Um, but eventually, I did end up transferring there after getting my associates at Northwest. And I believe the reason that I did that is because they had the 2+2 degree plans. Everything was pretty much set up for a lot of people to transfer to UW. In-state tuition, very affordable. They had a bunch of scholarships. They had motivations and scholarships for you to stay in state and not transfer to a different school or a different state. So I think that is a pretty big reason why I chose UW.
I ended up here at UW after I graduated from LCCC. I knew that I wanted to come here because I had heard how great the theater program was. My professor at LCCC is actually an alum of UW, so I already had a connection here as well. And also it's in my home state, it's really close to family, and I love the financial benefits that UW gives me, so that's how I ended up here.
I always knew I wanted to stay in state, so Wyoming's the only university, so I kind of was always drawn to it a little more.
I like to kind of hang out with my family a lot, so having them just an hour or two away is nice. And then it's far enough where I can still have my independence, but I can still go see them fairly shortly.
When I intended to go to a community college, I thought I was going to go into nursing, and even before I got there, I knew I didn't want to do that, but I didn't have a plan. And so I went there with very little intention of doing that, but figuring it out on the way. And so come the second semester I'm there, I am lost. I have no idea what I'm doing. And one of the counselors from my hometown actually reached out and asked me if I could qualify to graduate with my associates, and then I could transfer all my credits to UW. And that was the plan I actually ended up going with, so I got my associates in science.
So I initially came into college as a chemistry major because I just loved chemistry in high school. And I didn't realize, I feel like when you're coming out of high school, you don't necessarily know exactly what having a love for a subject is going to look like practically. And I realized quickly after being in an academic environment that chemistry is not the route that I want to go, and it's more chemical engineering. And I don't think I would have realized that if I hadn't been in school and been kind of hands-on and solving problems and reaching out for various internships and just seeing what it looked like more practically. So I think there's a lot of value in pursuing academia just in general, just because it does kind of expose you to things like that you may not have realized without that.
So I'm a psychology major. I decided on psychology after I took a psychology course in high school. It was just a general elective, and then my senior year I took a college psychology course. I was really drawn to it right from the beginning, and then I want to go towards counseling with that. I think it's really interesting, and I wanted to work with kids too. So I think it's like very fitting, and I've always just been really interested in it.
And then I actually started off as a criminal justice major, kind of like that story we watched one episode of Criminal Minds and like decide that's what you want to do. About 2 years in though, I realized I did not want to do that, and that I took an accounting class and I really liked kind of like the numbers. And then I decided for finance because I like the future of money rather than just tracking it.
So I always envisioned college just being this huge campus that I was not going to be able to navigate and find my classes very easily. I was very scared by how big the buildings were because my high school was not big at all. Going to community college first and having a smaller campus to sort of get used to the separate buildings, but also a navigatable campus really helped when transferring here afterward.
So I actually started applying and everything my first semester at Western. So first semester went really smoothly, like trying to get everything over, but then COVID hit my second semester, so that made the process go a lot slower. Like sending my final transcripts went a little longer, trying to figure out my Hathaway. It just was a very long process, and I felt very lost throughout the whole thing. But now with campus being back open, it's been a lot better.
Well, since I was planning on attending a different school, I transferred here fairly last minute, and I was really impressed with how quickly all my credits got transferred and I got accepted, and I was able to register for classes. I think that was really impressive, and my advisor reached out in a timely manner. I never felt like I was kind of lost in the system at any point. One thing that I do think could be a little bit better is just the advising process in general. I think a lot of times for me and for other students that I've spoken with, it can be easy to get lost in what you're supposed to be taking. Your advisor kind of expects you to know what to take, and then they're just there to check the box, like, yes, I spoke to you. So I would probably improve on that, just giving students a little bit more guidance on what classes they should be taking instead of just expecting them to kind of know right off the bat.
I think I had actually a very hard time with that. It almost felt like I passed up. Like I would have had that opportunity, but I didn't choose the first year, and so I was missing out on all these opportunities, which was kind of unfortunate, and it was a little sad. And to be fair, it was a very difficult time in society as well, so I can't just blame it on UW.
I actually have been really surprised and pleasantly surprised and impressed with how well the university integrates transfer students. For me personally, and for other transfers that I know, none of us have really felt like ostracized or like we kind of missed the boat by not being here as freshmen. And even for Cowboy Connect, like the welcome week, there were transfer specific events. So that's something I haven't seen at other schools. I know my last school didn't have that, and it was kind of like if you didn't start out here as a freshman, you're just a transfer, which I never experienced here. So I think transfers here are very welcome, just in general.
I felt super welcome here. Everyone was eager to get to know me. I had a lot of help coming here. I got a great email actually from the Transfer Peer Mentor program that was really helpful. It was nice that someone reached out to be like, hey, I'm also a transfer student. I'm here to help you if you need any help. So I felt really welcome when I came here.
One of the things that my transfer students ask a lot of the time is how to navigate WyoWeb, how to find everything, how to pay their bills, how to pay rent, how to see their degree plans, as well as their degree evaluation, how to register, and so that's one of the really big things that they ask.
I was going to say that too. It's very much the things that people kind of look right over, you know, those very beginning few steps, because, you know, you would think people would just be able to look up like WYO courses, but how do you even know WYO courses exists if you have never looked at it? And so it really is those links to WyoWeb, WYO courses, figuring out your school email, the degree evaluations, big ones, and then getting in contact with different staff here at the university, especially registration coming that time. One other thing I had students contact me a lot was books. Where can you buy affordable books at? And so I guided them to the UW bookstore, which is very helpful for a lot of people.
A lot of transfer students do have questions about YOWeb. I had questions about YOWeb when I first came. I didn't know how to work it. There were so many different tabs, so many different connections within the website. I had no idea how to find my W number, my advisor, their contact information. So a lot of students do wonder about that because sometimes it's a different format than what they were used to.
It seems like a lot of them, in general, don't really know where to start. I think transferring is a little bit more overwhelming than entering college as a freshman, because when you're entering school, the steps are pretty clearly laid out. Like, you've got to pay your admission fee, you have to sign up for classes, you've got to send in your transcripts and all that. But I think when you're transferring, you have to kind of factor in, okay, I'm not really a freshman anymore, so I don't necessarily have those same resources, but also I've already taken these classes and I don't know what's going to transfer, where I'm going to be starting, because you're kind of starting from ground zero, but you're not really. And it seems like that is what most students also experience, where they're just not really sure where to start, what they need to do, what they don't need to do, what they've already taken that will count for something in the future, etc. So that seems to be a common, tripping point that students have, and I felt that too. So
I would say like the most I've gotten is like living situations, like just trying to find places that like fit them, and also a lot of financial aid questions. I feel like that's always like a big one that transfer students worry about. And also if their credits are going to transfer. That's also a question that I get asked a lot, like how do they know that certain classes will transfer over and how do they not know which ones won't?
And then building off of what Josie said, I've kind of ran into the issue of like registering for classes. Students don't know like who their advisors are, things like that. So kind of just pointing them in the right direction to get that all figured out. And then of course like the financial aid and living is the other like top two.
So the outreach coordinator at Northwest pointed me in the right direction to see the degree maps that Northwest had with UW, and history was a pretty straightforward one. UW has a 2+2 plan with history, so it was pretty easy to see what my core requirements were, along with what other electives, what my other electives were.
I definitely looked into it coming in. When I came in though, I also switched majors at the same time. So I had originally been chemistry and then I switched into chemical engineering. So I was kind of aware that not all of my classes would transfer, but I knew that I could find the classes that I thought would be comparable. And after speaking to my advisor and the transfer office a little bit, I was able to kind of figure out, what is going to transfer and what I'm going to have to either retake or take something new completely.
So for me, I was a big planner and organizer. I knew what classes I wanted to take the second that the courses came out for the next semester. And so when I had to meet with my advisor for the first time, I thought, okay, this is going to go very easy. I know what I want to do. I don't need them. But what's nice about an advisor is, they're not just advising you on academics, they get to know you more on a personal level, and they remember you when you come around next time to register for class.
I think UW does a pretty good job of like having their website stay up to date with just certain things, and there's like checklists on the website as well, so kind of just going through that. And then the staff is always, you can always just like call the registrar office and they're always more than willing to help and like figure out the answer to your question.
Yeah, I made so many calls to everyone while I was transferring over. Like I probably called financial aid like twice a week, just trying to check up on that. And then I would always make up meeting times with my advisor as well, just making sure that I was registered correctly. So I feel like they do a really good job about that, like never really telling you like, oh, you can only call me during these certain times. And they always respond to emails super quick, so it was just really nice.
I do think it is a little bit harder for transfer students to get involved on campus. I know as a transfer student myself in my first year, even though we had the big kickoff weekend and everything in Prexis, it was still just um, a little bit daunting and a little bit intimidating. Everybody else, they've been there for 2 or 3 years. They already have their friend group, they have their cliques. They just are already more solidified. And if you aren't coming in with friends or with roommates or at least somebody who you can kind of navigate that area with, it is a very intimidating place to go up to one of those booths and say, hey, I'm interested. What do you got for me? Because a lot of students they just aren't like that. They'll most of the time go online and they'll try to find as much information there, but obviously that does not work for a lot of people. You just can't get that whole experience.
I just looked online, like the Facebook Marketplace and those real estate kind of things, and then reached out to friends I knew were already in Laramie. And just one of my close friends was just moving apartments that was the perfect size that we needed for me and my roommate. So then we came down, saw it once, and then moved into there, and we've loved it ever since. So.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. We just looked on online for some apartments in our price range. We came down a week in March to visit them and picked one out that we liked and was affordable, and that's what we chose to do. But I know I have some friends who have chosen to live in the university housing, especially if their scholarships cover it. That's a really good option for students that have the scholarships to do that or are looking to be closer to campus.
So lucky for me, my brother came here before I did, and I had some friends who had come here before I did as well. So they let me know about an apartment complex that was more geared towards college students. So we kind of signed up for that right away. There was one bill to pay, had all of the utilities, and it seemed like a very good place. Um, Unfortunately, it didn't end up being the best place. We understood that, it's geared towards college students, but at the end of our lease, they were charging us all different kinds of things for paint, for smoke detector, um, cleaning fee, even though we had cleaned it from top to bottom. And I just let them know, I said, these are unreasonable charges, and I am not going to pay them unless you come up with a more reasonable charge. And they dropped it. So it's just one of those things you have to be wary and you have to make sure you stand your ground against people who may be trying to target college kids who they think won't be able to fight back.
So I actually drove down to Laramie this summer before the fall semester, and I kind of just drove around, looked at the Facebook marketplace on Zillow, just kind of all over the internet. And I knew some people in Laramie, like friends I went to high school with, and I would just ask them if they knew any apartment complexes. And also the university website has housing options as well, so I was looking at the university apartments and just looking online most of the time.
And then I lived in the university apartments. I had a friend that lived in one of the other apartment buildings, and so they gave me the contact information for the people in charge of that, and that's where I ended up living.
So, in my opinion, um, the 4 years bachelor's degree stereotypical time is a very cookie cutter kind of thing. It applies to those who come straight out of high school. They assume that this person will put in the time and effort to complete the amount of credits per semester. They are assuming that all of those classes will be passed. They are assuming that there are no big financial issues going on, no pandemic going on. Um, so in my opinion, I mean, I added a minor when I came to the University of Wyoming because I was really interested and I wanted to explore it further. Lucky for me, I was able to get done within, the 2 more years that I had left. Um, but those who are maybe parents who are coming from different countries, international, study abroad, people who might just need to work part time while going to school or maybe full time while going to school, I think we really need to break that mold and show people that it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how long you take to complete your education. Your end goal is the same. You know what you're passionate about. And again, physical and mental well being is more important than trying to get enough credits during that semester and trying to finish in a certain amount of time. So I think that's a lot of what people have been figuring out during the pandemic as well, which is kind of a good lesson to learn from that. But yeah, there should be no negative connotations, only positive effects from taking more than 4 years to complete any type of education. We should be normalizing it.
I think it really depends on the student and on what they're trying to do. I think some students are really financially pinched to the point where getting through in 4 years is really number one priority. So in that case, I think it just kind of comes into play, like knowing the student that you're talking to and knowing what their needs are. But for other people like myself, switching majors ended up being a better choice for me, even though I will be spending 5 years here. So I think, you kind of have to take it or leave it, but ultimately knowing the student and knowing what's more important for them, whether it's like financial efficiency or whether that's actually really getting under their belt the credentials that they need to do something very specific.
I think some students, it's hard for them to maybe adapt to the college life. They have, like Josie was saying earlier, you have the freedom, but that also comes with you need to have your own time management. Your mom's not going to tell you when to do your homework, and I think that is a big thing. Is just kind of doing that, figuring out the balance between like your social life and still school, but then you might be working and things like that.
Yeah, I just think they get like burnt out. Like I can feel it on myself sometimes that I'm like, do I really want to keep going to school? But then like it's a lot of motivation. You need to motivate yourself a lot to like continue doing it.
A lot of students don't finish college when they don't have the support that they need, and they also don't know about the resources that they can use to get that support. I know personally for me, I'm a different kind of student. I come from a low income background. I'm an older student too. So I'm kind of really doing a lot by myself, but I also have a lot of support around me when it comes to my department and the programs that I'm in, being a different kind of student than just regular. I'm also first gen, so that makes it a little bit more difficult for me too. And I think that's why a lot of people don't finish, is because they don't think that they can accomplish that just because they don't have support.
So I think that many students drop out also because like the change from high school to college is so drastic. But I also think a big role that's, taught around everywhere is that, college life is the parties and classes are easy, you don't show up, you pass, it's whatever, the tests, it's not what people actually say it is, And coming to college is one of those things where you kind of have to experience it for yourself to get that, unique perspective. I also think that something that plays a huge role is mental health. So when you come into college and you start, you're working and you're going to school and you're having to pay for your own housing and you're having to do all of these things by yourself now, and sometimes in a foreign place, and that can be a huge role strain. And I think that a lot of people don't take their mental health serious enough in college.
I think I met a lot more people than I thought I was going to. And I had a lot more people like engage with me and try and connect with me than I thought I was going to, I guess, because I started that community college where it was the same 8 people all day, every day. this has been really nice to see that it's a really friendly community that I was actually really surprised by.
I think for me, I always pictured college being super intense and like drains you and like sucks the life out of you. And at least for my major, I found that it has been more enjoyable, especially when you're passionate about what you're studying. You can really like enjoy what you're doing, and it's not so much of a chore.
I kind of expected it to not be as transfer friendly as it was, just because, like I said, at my last university, it wasn't super transfer friendly, and it was just kind of, you transfer in and you finish out your degree there. And that was definitely what I expected here, but I've been able to get involved on campus in different ways, more so than I expected, and I've made friends here as well, better than I expected. It definitely takes time. I think wherever you transfer to, it's going to take time to kind of build up that same group, like just the same social group and the network that you had at your last school, but I've definitely still been able to find that here.
I think I've been surprised just about how much people can adapt in a pandemic, I guess. I wasn't really expecting to be able to do a lot last year in general, let alone my first semester, but I was able to actually do a lot with the theater department. We still did shows, we still did everything the best that we could, and that was really surprising to me because I was expecting to not be able to do anything at all.
Aside from just getting my degree here, I think one thing that I've really appreciated about the university is the opportunities to network if you're willing to. Professors are really, since classes are smaller, professors are willing to reach out to you, and they're willing to get involved in your life and to sponsor you in various things, to write letters of recommendation for various things. And I think learning how to approach them is something that the university has taught me here.
I have really enjoyed knowing that the University of Wyoming music program specifically requires everyone to be certified K through 12, and that their hiring rate is like through the roof basically. And I've known that since I was in high school to now. It's just been really reassuring that like if I graduate and finish the program through here, I can almost be guaranteed I'll have a job somewhere. So it's been really nice.
Yeah, something I think UW has really helped prepare me for the career field is really like practical application. Being in my senior semesters now, all my classes don't really require tests for my majors, but rather building connections. Like, this is the information, what does that mean, versus just recite it to me. And so giving me really practical application and working on real life projects that I can use on resumes. And so I think that will be helpful.
I don't really know if I want to stay in Wyoming yet, but at least like networking wise, the professors seem to, be pretty broad in where they're from and just like knowing, having connections, which I think is pretty good since like we do live in a small state where there's not a lot of, like big companies, or at least here in Laramie. And I'm hoping to use that when I graduate, so.
Yeah, kind of like the same as Chad. I want to like get out more. Like, I love Wyoming, but I feel like it's also good to get out of the state you like grew up in, get to know different people, experience different things, and eventually I'd like to end up back in Wyoming.
I just hope to be really prepared in order to go into the workplace, which I feel like I will be. I've already learned a lot in my first year being at UW. Everyone that's here, all the professors are really greatly trained professionals, so I've learned a lot. So that's really the biggest thing, is just being prepared to go into the career field that I want to be in.